And so I want to press you on Dubai Islamic Bank, because it was the first Islamic bank that cited the principles of Islam in all of its practices. So what do you think the elements are required to drive the UAE investments to benefit the region in terms of the various states within Russia?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me just tell you something, that it is very, very difficult to stay there on stage being a creator. And I think Jonathan is doing such a fantastic job. So may I please request you to give a round of applause to Brother Jonathan, please.
Thank you for that.
And I've done that so that he won't ask me any more questions. But having said that, listen, I want to put a context here, if you may. You know, I come from an institution which is the first Islamic bank in the world. Islamic banking started in 1975 with Dubai Islamic Bank. And much has happened in the industry since then. And I won't throw numbers at you because, you know, they might be overwhelming. You know, the industry is growing at a faster rate than, you know, its global counterparts, 7% versus 1%, and so on. So I think the panel here has spoken about a lot of the potential of Islamic finance. Will Islamic finance spur investments into the Russian Federation? Is an apt question. And in my opinion, the answer to that is yes. I think Islamic finance will be the catalyst to spur investments within the larger Russia. And I'll tell you why I say that. Over the years that I've been associated with Islamic finance and the industry as such, I've been a proponent of change, and I've always said that we need to make Islamic finance a norm rather than an alternative. And I've spoken at many conferences around the world, from Far East Asia to Europe to Middle East and what you may have. What I've realized is that Islamic finance has the tools of spurring investments. I said that a decade ago, and since then even non-Islamic countries, and I'm not referring to countries within the OIC, but non-Islamic countries, and we can pick 4 here. We can talk about the UK, Hong Kong, Luxembourg, South Africa, all have tapped Islamic investments in the form of market transactions. Now, when they've done that, if you look at the mix of where the money came from, 60% of the investments within the non-Islamic countries came from the Middle East and came from the GCC. 60% of the investments within those countries, which were non-Islamic, but they were tapping the Islamic capital markets, came from the Middle East and from the GCC. Now, if you look at the investments, and the foreign direct investments that came into Russia over the last few years has increased, and let me pick a number of $5 billion, but you will see that the investments out of the Middle East into the Russian Federation were very little. And one of the reasons of that was the lack of Islamic finance alternatives. And I firmly believe that if Russia wants to attract foreign direct investments, they need to look at Islamic alternatives, and thus the investment from the Middle East will flow in, which is already demonstrated in investments into non-Islamic countries like the UK, Luxembourg, Hong Kong, South Africa. That's the first context that I want to set. So yes, Islamic finance will play a catalyst in spurring investments within the larger Russia. I call it race to Russia. And I say race to Russia because the opportunities that are there within the Federation across many sectors, and I'll talk about 4 sectors. We are talking about healthcare, education, infrastructure, and real estate. These are the 4 sectors, in addition to everything else that we've been speaking about within Russia, that can attract investments from many parts of the world, not just Europe, but predominantly the Middle East. And why do I say that? I say that because if you look at healthcare, about 1 million Russians go outside Russia for healthcare activities. If you look at education, there are not, and you know this better than I do, 5 in 100, which is the strategy that Russia has adopted, 5 Russian universities to be in the top 100 universities around the world by 2020, right? So in my opinion, and tourism, if you look at tourism, this is one such sector on Google. Russia is one of the 10 most searched regions when it comes to touristic and hospitality sectors. So if you really look at the opportunity that is there in the Russian Federation for investments is high, and Middle East can actually support in bringing Middle Eastern, Islamic finance can support in bringing Middle Eastern investments into Russia. Now, where does Tatarstan fall into all of this? I see Tatarstan as a land of limitless opportunities. So race to Russia and limitless opportunities. And I say that because if I look at the map of Tatarstan, and I mean the strategic and economic map, it is between the UAE and Tatarstan. And I feel that Islamic finance can play an opportunity and a catalyst of bringing investments from the Middle East and GCC, and can see the light of the day as far as this is concerned, and we'll try our level best to help them achieve their goals. So thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you so much.